Recently, I talked about why Steve Orlando, the writer of Marauders, was an absolute putz. And I decided today, let's prove it, not just by his own words, but his actual writing on Marauders #7 with Eleonora Carlini on art. This comic book is an absolute disaster. And who better to discuss a terrible X-Men comic than Doc himself? How you doing, Doc?
I hate you for making me read this.
You're an X-Men fan. This is in your wheelhouse.
I am an X-Men fan, which makes me hate this completely and utterly, because I don't know what the hell this was, but it damn sure wasn't anything approaching a fucking X-Men comic.
He's made a lot of really stupid changes. Obviously, the first one being in this comic book, he establishes that mutants came before humans, and I don't think this works out in the Marvel Comics universe, Doc.
No, nothing about this makes sense. For him to claim there are mutants 2 billion years ago, not only that, but the humans were the genetic anomalies back then. I get the idea of like taking the whole mutant-human relations, flipping it on its head thing, but it does not work with the continuity of the Marvel universe.
But it's really clever, Doc, because see, he switched places, and now we can see that the humans were once in the mutants position and the mutants were once in the humans positions, and we're all like not really all that different. It's really clever storytelling.
Yeah, for a kindergartner.
Well, of course, the planet that they came from was like a utopia where people didn't have sex and like have families or whatever. They were like grown and everyone raised a family as if they were all their own children. And the outcasts, the humans that were the vast minority in there, were celebrated because they were different, Doc, because it was a better society than ours.
Well, let's just say, hey, look, they came from a commie utopia. Give it up.
I don't think communists celebrate people that are different than them.
No, but like that there was no such thing as the atomic family unit. But apparently they were only born every 20 years. Like it was just like a giant batch of babies that crawled out of goo every 20 years.
But that's how Steve Orlando and the writers at X-Men wish the planet was, Doc. You don't get what they're trying to tell you?
Oh, no, I get exactly what they're trying to tell me. It doesn't work. It's never worked. These people are not even remotely subtle.
Yeah, but this is supposed to be a comic book. This is supposed to be an action story, and it's not that. It's just Steve Orlando trying to get some stupid point across that no one cares about because they actually came to read about the X-Men.
He wants to write some, sociological diatribe here and not a superhero comic. Steve, you're a superhero comics book writer. For fuck's sake, write a superhero comic book. It's not that hard.
I talked to somebody that had talked to him in the past. They asked me why he moved from DC to Marvel. And he said DC editorial was too restrictive on his stories. And he didn't like that kind of oversight. And he liked that Marvel was more freewheeling and allowing him to tell the stories that he really felt passionate about.
As terrible as we talk about how DC's editorial is and how weak and ineffective they are, he went to Marvel because theirs is worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jordan White. It's the Jordan White effect. There's also a lot of just really stupid stuff in here that doesn't make sense for X-Men. They're resurrecting these mutants that are 1 billion years old, Doc, because they have a walking deus ex machina named Cerebra now. Like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And how they would jump the line ahead of the other 100 million mutants that haven't been resurrected yet makes no sense.
They could have at least explained, hey, all these characters are jumping the line because we need to find out what's in this mystery box because it's really important to the whole plot of the X stuff going forward. But no, they're just like,
what if it was an alien biological weapon that was going to kill everybody?
Yeah, they have no, because they're like, well, we don't care. We can't die. This is the point. What fear do they have? They'll just get resurrected again. So even if
they murder everybody instantaneously, they had no idea what was coming out of that stupid box.
The X-Men have become.
And how will the personality survive for 1 billion years, Doc? That's the question.
Oh,
did they adequately explain that one? Because I didn't get it.
Like they tried to explain like this whole like them merging into one being. None of it made any damn sense. It was just and then because.
And why does Cerebro work like a Cerebro? I thought this was a person.
Cerebra from 2099 sort of was like a human mutant detecting machine. Basically, she was halfway between Cerebro and Caliban.
But Cerebro was specifically designed to do this function. She's not.
Them acting like she could be some sort of replacement to the 5. She can only do 1 at a fucking time.
Apparently not. She can do 3. Are you glad to see her back? And now she's an analogy for refugees which apparently is how they're treating Bishop now.
No, I am not happy to see her back. I am not happy to see any of the 2099 mutants in current day. I guess this is the way of Steve Orlando getting out of the fact that he just randomly brought Brimstone Love from 2099 to the present for that stupid Marauders annual.
You know what else doesn't make sense, Doc? I talked about in the interview with Steve Orlando that he had, that he didn't want Dakin to be a Wolverine derivative. So he's calling the character Fang, gave him the Fang outfit, which is a derivative of Wolverine. And basically, he's just mean-spirited Wolverine still.
How many times did they change Dakin's name during the Krakoan era before he just ends up back as Dakin? Putting him in the Fang costume makes absolutely no sense. I get it that it's kind of like a homage to the fact that Dave Cockrum originally designed that costume for Wolverine and then it never got used because John Byrne hated it. But at the same time, that was the point of leaving Fang as Fang. He's supposed to be some badass intergalactic soldier. Dakin isn't any of those things.
Do you know what Dakin is, Doc?
A fucky thought boy.
He's a thought enforcer. He's just gay. That's all he can be now.
That's all Somnus is too.
Well, he's roofing people, so technically he's a felon.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. He should go on Megan's list. Dakin is not that interesting to begin with, in my opinion. I've never really liked the character. And the fact that they keep trying to make him this thing and trying to give him his own identity, except for all they do is keep giving him the identity of someone else that already exists.
And that is associated with his dad.
Yes, exactly. If you want to not have him not be a Wolverine for this team, then give him an identity that isn't directly associated with his fucking dad.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And then you have this big confrontation kind of in the beginning between Fang, Dakin, whatever you would call him, Dark Wolverine, fucking Ethod Enforcer. And he's fighting this other mutant that's in this town, and I guess it's named after Captain America or whatever. I have no idea why they're there. I don't even know what the conflict is. And they're trying to stop him, and he and Fang are fighting, but it feels like they're more flirting than anything, Doc.
It felt like Somnus was trying to flirt with them, like they were going to end up in a three-way rather than somebody knocked out. And I don't think that they ever even knocked him out. Like you just didn't see him again. That character after that, it felt more like flirting, like it was going to end up in a gay three-way. It was terrible.
Well, for you and I and X-Men fans, it was terrible. But for Steve Orlando, I think it probably hit the spot.
I really don't need to keep seeing this.
I don't know. So what are your overall thoughts on this Marauders thing? I think he's a putz. I think he identified himself as a putz. We read the comic book. I say it's virtually unreadable. The dialogue itself is terrible. The characterization of every character is off base and awful, except for Somnus, which I guess is his own original character that he created. So I guess that one works for the character, but it's absolutely awful. He's a felon or whatever. And the story makes no sense. They're like breaking the continuity and the rules and everything that goes into X-Men because I guess he's Steve Orlando and he can.
Look, this comic was complete and utter gibberish masquerading as a comic. He's written himself into every conceivable plot corner and just keeps trying to dig to get himself out. But all he ends up doing is creating an even more convoluted, nonsensical mess, violates massive amounts of continuity. Somehow the Shi'ar have been intergalactic civilization for 2 billion years, yet haven't advanced beyond that point. And we're just all supposed to just fucking roll with it. None of the characters are the same. Dude, seriously, go do some fucking crowdfunded thing. Just get away from my X-Men.
No, don't do that, man, because no one's going to buy your crowdfunded book because they probably read Commanders in Crisis and all that other crap you've written. That comic book was absolutely a struggle to get through, and I'm not surprised. After reading what Steve Orlando had to say about comic books and X-Men, if you haven't seen this, it's worse than you can possibly think. Just reading these comic books isn't enough. Check out this video. I made it just for you. This explains why Steve Orlando is an absolute hack and shouldn't be touching anything related to Marvel. If you don't see it here, there's also a link in the video description.